Good evening and welcome to Region 10 Live News. Every year in May, Toastmasters clubs around the world elect new officers, presidents, vice presidents, education, treasurers, secretaries, members stepping into leadership, many for the first time. And one of the very first things they do is train. Tonight, we mark a new chapter in that journey, the Club Officer Training Program, the one that reaches every club in every district across the world, has just been rebuilt from the ground up. Now, let's watch a video about that. There you go. So, a little bit of a teaser for what we are expecting tonight. Now, I want you to light up the digital launch pad. If you are a club officer watching right now, please, or maybe you've just been elected for a new term, type your role and your city in the chat. Let's see who's in the room. And buonasera, Europa, Francesco Fedele. Thank you for joining us. Elizabeth Jordan, of course, from District 71, looking forward to exciting news on the new COT. You're about to find out tonight, Elizabeth, just what's in store. And guten Abend aus Deutschland, Olga. Ja, einen schönen Tag zu sehen. Willkommen. So welcome to all of you who are joining tonight, whether you've joined right now or Florian Bay. I recognize many of those slides. Yes, I think you've been a part of that team too. So let's get into it, but please share in the chat where are you calling from and what role are you taking on in the next Toastmasters year. That's what we want to see tonight as we truly mark this landmark moment. So what makes tonight truly historic isn't just the change in the slides, as you said there, Florian. This curriculum is a landmark for Toastmasters because it wasn't outsourced professionally. It was built from within by a team of members working under the guidance of eight international past presidents. It is a program created by Toastmasters for Toastmasters. They are the Club Officer Training Working Group. Our 8 past international presidents, all distinguished Toastmasters, of course, were co-chaired by Lark, Doley, and John Greiner. Alongside them, Jana Barnhill, I should say, Edward Bick, Ted Corcoran, Alfred Herzig, Pat Johnson, and Mike Storkey. 8 leaders who have each guided this organization at the highest level, now working on what comes next in the future. Behind them, the team who did the work, 10 Toastmasters from different regions and different walks of life, who shaped this curriculum, built the beta test, and made it real. And from our very own Region 10, there were 5 of them. Here they are, as you see here on screen. 5 builders from Region 10, Florian Bay, Elizabeth Jordan, Adrian Lane, Paula Parina, and Diane Richardson. 5 Toastmasters, each getting their hands on the work directly. It is with immense pride for Region 10 to see our own members at the heart of such a global landmark. And now it is time to meet the leaders who set the vision. Let's bring our guests onto the stage. Please welcome past International President John Greiner. Welcome, John. Thanks for being on Region 10 Live News.
Thank you.
Good. Your internet connection just cut out there a little bit, John, but it's a significant moment to have you with us on the show. You represent a level of institutional memory and leadership that very few in our history can claim. 50 years of service culminating in your role as international president. That's truly remarkable.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. It's been an exciting time. The 50 years went by quickly, I can tell you, and it's been a learning experience along the way. And as you said, of course, 50 years, you can't help but learn something along the way that helps the entire organization. Being at the helm gives you a little bit different perspective. And so, yes, I think between Lark and myself and the other past presidents that have served in that role, in this role now, then we can certainly bring some value to something like club officer training, which is fundamental to our success.
That's truly wonderful. And we often see you through this lens of global leadership. But tonight, we also want to meet the man behind the title. And John, social media actually gave us a wonderful window into that side of your life. So now we see here a photo on screen from 2024, your 50th Toastmasters anniversary, where you celebrated with your own District 54. So there you are, of course, in the middle with your guitar. What were you singing?
Yes, we were singing District 54 theme song, which was created around the music created by Woody Guthrie's, yes, from several years ago, using the tune "This Land Is Your Land, This Land Is My Land." Several of us got our heads together and wrote words that were specific to District 54 and adapted them to that tune. And that's what we were singing. So you can see our banjo player for the district there, Larry Howlett. I saw him yesterday at our last district conference. He's still playing banjo. And of course, I've been playing guitar for 50, almost 60 years now. So we have some fun when we get together.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, John. So stay on the line there. We now bring in our second guest and welcome International Past President Lark Doley. Thank you also for joining us tonight.
It is golden to be with you. Thanks for inviting us.
And Lark, your presence tonight, of course, adds a vital perspective to this discussion. Beyond your role as past international president, you've dedicated your professional life to the craft of curriculum design and leadership development. And it's that expertise that has been so critical to this project. But we also know that, leaders are defined by where they call home. So Lark, anyone who has joined you in an online meeting has probably seen a very distinct background. And I see it there behind you. So I have to ask, because our audiences might wonder, are you joining us from your lighthouse home in Texas?
Absolutely. And it is on Lake Travis. So it is not on an ocean, but it is on a lake. And I have a 360-degree view, truly, of the lake and the hills that surround it.
That's beautiful. And I have to ask, which one is your bedroom? Is it the top level, the middle level, or?
It's actually level 2, but I am
on
level 3 at the present time, which is the office. It is small but tall, shall we say.
Small but tall. I love that. That's really wonderful. So thank you for letting us into your world a little bit tonight, Lark. And John, it is an honor to have you both here with us. And now, of course, tonight's interviewer, I'd like to invite Paula Perina, the lead of the Region 10 Live News and a member of the team that actually built the program with you. So Paula, are you there? Coming on stage in just a moment, I assume.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Lark. Hi, John.
Hi.
And thank you, David.
Thank you, Paolo. I was just saying, have a quick look at the comments. We see lots of people now joining in from all over Region 10, all over the world. So, Paula, I leave it to you, and I'll see you back here shortly.
Well, thank you, David. Thank you. Well, Lark, well, John, it is a pleasure to have you here with us tonight on Region 10 Live News. It is a privilege and an honor having you here, and I am so excited. And I was backstage just a moment ago, checking the comments. The audience is as excited as I am. So let's get started. Let's dive right in. And I'd like to get started from the very beginning, looking back. Why new officer training? And I'd like to ask John to take us back to 2023. You're sitting there with 8 past international presidents, the Club Officer Training Working Group, talking about training. With that level of experience around the table, what made you decide that the officer training needed renewal, not just a patch, but a complete rethink?
Well, thank you, Paula. Yes, that's a great question. As we started to contemplate and understand more fully what our assignment was, which of course was written up in a scope document, and we were all sitting around reviewing that, figuring out what are we going to do, what's next, where do we start, what do we do first. What we ended up deciding to do is actually go talk to people and find out what's going on out in the world, the Toastmasters world, see what they are doing, because the realities are that if they're doing something that is already appropriate, we can probably just adopt that, say that's the easiest solution, the easiest way to move forward. We did that. We talked to a lot of people. We researched a number of districts, asked districts to submit information they had and share with us what they were doing that was different in the club officer training area. And lo and behold, we found out that there were many, many, many different ways of approaching this, none of which, in our judgment, addressed the entire issue of club officer training. Everyone had taken their own little personal perspective of this, created their version of what they thought was important in the club training situation that we're in, and ended up with something different from everyone else. So we're looking at all this vast array of training materials that we saw, and we tried to find the commonalities, the things that made it useful, we thought, across the entire organization. And it was easy to reach the conclusion that we needed to start from ground zero, because none of it contained all the elements that we thought needed to be there. So that's where we started, and that's where we still are today. Unfortunately, it didn't all end with just round one and round two that we've talked about and shown to the world. There are other things that were discovered as we've gone through this process, and so there will be other things coming down the way too.
Well, thank you, John, for that. So now the why is clear. We've covered the why, and let's now move to the training itself. What does the training look like? And I would like to unpack that together with Lark. Lark, in your professional life, you spent decades designing leadership programs and curricula. Exactly the kind of work that has just been rebuilt. From your professional perspective, what are the main enhancements in this new curriculum? What has actually changed, and why does it make the training stronger?
So David mentioned the top enhancement on my list, and that this training has been developed by Toastmaster leaders for Toastmasters leaders. Every module was developed by a Toastmaster leader who has actually served in the club officer role for the module they developed. So that is at the top of the list. The second is that the slides are graphically gorgeous, in my opinion. And Diane Richardson literally vetted every graphic in every module to ensure that they were copyright free. The third enhancement is that the content focuses on club success. Everything a club officer needs to know in order to achieve club success. And every club officer leaves the training knowing what their next steps are, because the last slide enumerates what the next steps for each individual club officer should be. So that's the third. The fourth is that the instructor notes what a trainer needs to do and say are included in the PowerPoint instructor notes. There's not a separate trainer coordinator guide. Literally, everything that a trainer needs to know is included in the instructor notes. So you can use the PowerPoint visuals to show your slides, but also as the trainer to have the PowerPoint instructor notes with the slide and what's coming up next in your view as a trainer. The last item is that the training has been organized into 4 sections. And the very first one, we have to give credit to Ted Corcoran. Ted wants to be sure that at every training, we acknowledge and recognize the achievements of the club's members, district leaders in each district that is training. When we're doing round one training, which is the June, July, August training, the Hall of Fame slides that have to be completed by the district leaders, the Hall of Fame slides show the achievements of the past year. So essentially, if you're doing July, August training, you have all the achievements. In June, you'll have to recognize the achievements thus far to the end of the year. But in July and August, you should be able to literally show all the club and district achievements for that previous year. The second module is the general session part 1. And in this module, we literally introduce Toastmasters around the world to the mission statements of our organization. Does every member know that there's an international mission statement, a district mission statement, and a club mission statement? Well, they may not. Does every club leader and club member know the organizational structure of Toastmasters? I didn't when I joined. So we begin with the mission statements, the organizational structure, and then we get into literally how to achieve club success. We talk about how to plan for success and the tools that you need to use to plan for that success. The club success plan, the distinguished club program, the recognition in that. We finish with club quality, and then we move into the individual club officer breakouts. We talk about transferable skills in all of the modules. In general session 1 and in all of the individual club officer breakout sessions. And we literally start with that because we want our leaders and our members to know when they joined Toastmasters, they joined for a reason. And we expect that that reason was that they would be able to learn communication and leadership skills that they could use in every aspect of their lives. So we begin with that, but then we go through how each club officer contributes to club success. You saw in the short video that there is a club success cycle. And so in each of the club officer breakout sessions, we talk about the role of each club officer in that club success cycle. We finish with the fourth module, which is general session part 2. And here's where we try to tie the bow around the package of club officer training. In here, we talk about what's the difference between leadership and management. I hope you know, but you'll learn in club officer training. And then we talk about how to build effective teams, because if you don't make your club officer team an effective team, you cannot achieve club success. And then we finish by saying, all right, so get out your pen and paper or get out your tablet or your computer or your phone, and let's jot down what needs to happen in each month of the Toastmasters year as a club leader. Those are the enhancements to club officer training, the new club officer training developed by individuals who are on this live stream today and others that you showed in that beautiful slide. And thank you so much for showing all of the developers who have created this club officer training.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Lark, for this. There is, I hear an echo. Maybe we could, John and Lark, close your microphone just for a second, see if we still hear the echo. No, it's okay. All right. This is live things and they happen. I just wanted to say that, Lark, this is a fantastic shift that we've had. And that in your answer, you have answered many of the questions, the pre-polled questions that we have received. And yet there is one that I would like to read because it enhances what you just said. It's by Michael Esilius, DTM from Speechmasters. He asks, what steps have been taken to make the new club officer training session more interactive and engaging for participants?
Well, I will tell you that in round one training originally, we were trying to tell you everything you needed to know, simply everything. So it was too detailed, and we didn't have as much time for interaction as we should have. But the production version, which is going to be available very soon, the production version has been reduced in size because, and Paula knows this, we have created an auxiliary training development team, and they will be able to go more in depth into some of the topics that need more clarification, more definition. But we've reduced the content so that we can add more interaction, and we have added more interaction to round one as a result.
Thank you, Lark. You've been very exhaustive with this explanation. And now that we understand the why and the what, the next question becomes, how will this be received in the real world? And for that, I would like to ask John that we know that before this new training reached a global launch, it went through an extensive beta testing phase across all regions of Toastmasters. John, please walk us through how that testing program was designed and what you were hoping to learn.
Yes, thank you, Paula. The beta testing program is really designed to let us develop a more complete and full understanding of what people really wanted out there in the Toastmasters Club Officer Training package. We started with a framework. We did the research, as I said earlier. We put together a framework of what we thought this might look like, but we didn't know that that was the right framework because it's been 20 years since we've done anything major in terms of developing new club officer training. So we basically had to go out and do some field testing and find out what people out there thought. So we worked with the team, you included, as well as Florian and others, Elizabeth, that are on the call here today. And we put together what we call the beta test version that Lark explained very, very well. Yeah, we jammed everything in there that we heard from everybody around the world, trying to satisfy everybody. We found out when we did the beta test, which we did one test, one district in each region around the world. And we basically set up training to show the new trainers that are going to be developing and leading us through the TLIs. We actually trained them with a beta test, train the trainer kind of an approach. So we ended up with about 180 people from around the world who volunteered to be part of this. And they were trained in what we expected when we delivered the training in TLIs, beta test TLIs. Part of that was to gather data and feedback. So we had a very explicit process using both, all kinds of information that we gathered with various methods, mostly online feedback sessions or forms that were filled out as part of the process. We also had an oral feedback session at the end of each one of the beta tests where we gathered detailed feedback information verbally from attendees and from trainers. And so all of this was put together, and that's how we finally said, well, okay, we got too much stuff in there, as Lark said. This is going to bury people. They're not going to want to sit and listen for 4 hours to us lecture them. So we said we got to take things out. We're going to separate them into this auxiliary training that Lark talked about just a little bit, which is more focused on the how-tos. We also said, we know there are some folks who have heard this many times over. They don't want to hear it again. They really would rather be more involved in a discussion format. And of course, we are looking now at what we can do to address that issue too. That's another step that we will be addressing here as we finish up with the auxiliary training. So what that really means is that the new training that's coming toward you right now is focused at, I won't say totally new officers, but it's focused at new officers, largely new officers that need a fundamental understanding of what their roles are. As they get into this, they will have other resources, the auxiliary training, to help them more fully develop their understanding of what they need. And for those people who want that other advanced, more knowledge in the training leadership side of club management, That is all going to be available in the advanced leadership training packages that we'll be working on as soon as we finish with the auxiliary training. So that's where we are. One thing we haven't mentioned, of course, is that the middle of the year training in the past has always been the same as the beginning of the year training. And now that is totally, completely different. That is round 2 training. That is a completely different format. It is very heavily focused on interaction and debate, case studies, and all those kinds of things that we think are appropriate for mid-year training, where officers have some experience. They just want the opportunity to talk about their history, their experience, have their knowledge tested, and then share with them some problem-solving kinds of solutions and some things that they can look forward to for the rest of the year. So that's what we did in the beta tests. We had 30 altogether in the round 1 training. We had 3,600 and some 50, I think 60, something like that, separate feedback responses from participants in different sessions. That's a powerful message as to what people really want. It's not us sitting around chewing the fat among us 8 people, or maybe even among 20 as to what needs to be done. There's 3,600 and some responses on what needed to be done. So we think we put some credibility into this thing, and we think that we have what the organization needs at this point. So we're excited about the launch. We can't wait to hear what others think about it as it gets rolled out.
Oh, thank you, John. 3,600, over 3,600 individual voices. That's huge. Oof. And that tells us the scale of this testing and the feedback that we got. Lark, now that you had on your hands all that feedback, when it came time to analyze that volume, what were the key findings and how did you act on them?
Well, we have all the statistics and the feedback to thank Florian Bay for that. So Florian is the one who expertly pulled all of the information together. And if you want any of that, I know Florian's here today, he might be willing to send it to you. But the bottom line is we had 2 rating scales. One was for training satisfaction and the other was for slide clarity. The training satisfaction was based on a 10-point scale. And in round 1, the high to the low was 9.21 to 7.72. Well, as a training manager, I can tell you that if I received that type of training satisfaction score, I would be thrilled as a training manager. Then for slide clarity, it was based on a 5-point scale, with 5 being the highest in quality. And in that, it went from a high of 4.66 to a low of 4.12. Again, as a training manager, I would have been thrilled to receive that type of rating on the visuals, the slides that accompanied the training. I already mentioned to you that we received so many positive comments about the training, such as they valued the transferable skills. It was comprehensive. It was informative. It was innovative. It was empowering. It was educational. And they talked about the dynamic, colored, attractive, visually appealing slides that accompanied all of that. But absolutely, Florian broke it down by module. So literally we knew the strengths and the weaknesses of each module, General Session 1, each of the individual club officer breakout sessions, and General Session Part 2. The way that he formatted the feedback, we were able to easily look at the feedback and implement the feedback from the members, club officers worldwide. So thank you, Florian. We are indebted to you for that. We literally looked at every piece of feedback that he gave to us and tried to implement those as well as we could, as much as we could.
Yes, kudos to Florian for this. And I would also like to add that from a developer point of view, to me, the beta test was a little bit scary because by that time, we had poured in so many, maybe hundreds of hours of work into this. It was really our baby. And, to put it out into the world and see what they thought, it was scary and exciting at the same time. And when the feedback started coming in, whoa, that was a high moment. I will never forget that. So thank you for that experience as well.
And one other thing, Paula, I said we were able to do this. It was the developers who edited their own modules, and then Diane, myself, and a past international director, Pamela McCown, then went through each of the modules after they'd been edited and just tweaked a few things. But it was, again, the developers from beginning to end, the end process for round one.
Thank you, Lark. And as you mentioned, the training was already quite packed with information. We said it in different occasions. So a decision had to be made. Some of that content needed to be removed altogether, or it should be moved elsewhere. John, walk us through that decision, please, and what came out of it.
Well, that's a great question, Paula, because you can never satisfy everybody, as we said earlier, with everything that they might possibly need. So we had to make some sort of what we thought was an intelligent decision about how to separate that out and keep the core information in there that we needed and focus on the what's. What are the officers really supposed to do? What do they need to do in order to be successful as a club, leading the club? The issue always is there are people who used to, in the old times when we had lots and lots and lots of what we call tribal knowledge in clubs, they didn't need all the how-to knowledge because there were a lot of people at home when they got back home that they could ask, they could get information on how to do things, not just what to do, but how to do things. Now, a lot of those people are gone, and in new clubs, there aren't necessarily any much tribal knowledge there. So where does that knowledge come from? We made a decision to take a lot of that information that is how-to focused and move it into the auxiliary training modules that we're working on now. And you included, of course, in that whole process and being a leader in the team, actually. Thank you. But the bottom line is we moved the how-to information there. It is going to focus on those folks who do not know how to find their way into, for example, where do I find Club Central? What do I do with Club Central? How do I get into base camp? How do I do all these other things that you really need to know before you can get to the information that you need to be able to manage the club and lead the club? We talk about the DCP. Do you know how to find it on the website? Do you know how to get to where you need to go to? There are the VPEs that are sitting out there with all kinds of things that they need to know how to do, such as scheduling. How do you find information, and where do you find the information on how to schedule? That's not in the core training that we created, and it can't be because there just isn't enough time to cover all the details associated with finding. It could be an easy speak, it could be in free toast host, it could be on a spreadsheet, it could be a variety of different ways of doing this. So we have to find a different way of allowing people to actually find that information in a timely fashion. As you all know, I think in today's busy world, if you're assigned to do something and you do not know where to start, where to go, how to find the information you need, it's a major impediment. And the probability in a volunteer organization like we are that you are going to go put that effort in and find that information decreases. If you make it easy to find, it works. And so what ended up happening in the auxiliary training study that we did, we found a lot of the how-to information. It's out there, but unfortunately it's buried in the middle of a 50-slide package that nobody even knows exists. And so how do they find the information? So part of this whole process is not only creating the core information, but also creating a fundamental knowledge base where we start. And then we link a lot of these other things that we're talking about, including auxiliary training, to that, so that when the need when you identify what you need to do, you also have a link to take you to how to do that, how to get you the information that you need to be able to do and execute your role. So that's really the how we got to where we are in auxiliary training. And I'll just comment a little bit. The team is working now actively. We have a number of people working on the auxiliary training, all who are very knowledgeable in the AI space, artificial intelligence space, work specifically with training programs in that space also. And the team is coming together. In fact, we just had a meeting a little earlier this morning on our time, this afternoon, I guess, in Paula's time. But anyway, that is moving. We're excited about it. We have a list of priority subjects that we put together, largely focused on those areas where the greatest need is in terms of the how-to information. So I hope that answers what you were looking for there, Paula. The other side of it, I'll just add here just a second. The other side of it is we have those folks, we had the information in some cases in the core training materials that we put out in the beta tests that was a little bit on the high side, a little bit more advanced, probably more than what we really needed to have in the core training. So basically we made the decision to move that information out and move it into more advanced training that I mentioned earlier. We are going to call that advanced leadership training. And we still don't have a really good format put together for how we're going to do that. That will be next on our work list here as we move further into this project. But I think you can see what our objective is here. We want to have something core in the middle here for people to get started that they can build on, that will enable them to actually move quickly into their core role in the club as a club officer, have the information they need to do that. But for those people that are a little bored, they've seen this 10 times before, they don't want to do that, there's going to be the advanced learning out there in the leadership track. And so they'll have the opportunity to do that while at the same time still assisting with core training as necessary or needed. So that's kind of our strategy. That's how we pulled this thing all together. That's what came out of the beta test. And that I guess it validated the framework that we had put together after we did the research that we did. So we're excited about it. We think it's the right solution for the organization. And we hope as this thing unfolds that others come back to us. We know it's not perfect. Nothing ever is. There's always opportunity for improvement. So we're putting what we have now out there. And as time goes on, I'm sure it will get better as we get additional feedback from even more people than the 3,600 that we had in round one. And we had another 3,000 here in round two. So at the end of the day, a year from now, you'll hear the same thing, except it'll be 6,600 people that have given us feedback on the program to date.
Well, thank you, John. The auxiliary training, I think, is a really reframing and also a new road untraveled yet for Toastmasters, something brand new. This is great. This is great. And this gives us a glimpse into what's coming next. But let's go back to today, come back to today, to the club officer training that is rolling out right now. We've talked about the vision behind the renewal. Now I'd like to focus on something just as important. The training was not outsourced. Lark already mentioned that. The training had developers, had the working group as mentors, and then it had developers. Lark, you've built curricula professionally for decades with paid teams, clear timelines, right? Defined budgets, everything was perfect. This one was built by Toastmasters for Toastmasters members on top of everything else, on top of their lives, their jobs, their families, and everything else. What has that been like? And is there a moment from the build that you'll always remember?
Oh, there are many golden moments I will remember, I assure you. Probably the first one is when each of the developers accepted the challenge to do this. So I am grateful for each and every one of you. Yes, in a corporate world, having a zero budget for a project would have been an obstacle, but not in Toastmasters, because we are passionate about this organization. We are passionate about the benefits that it's provided to us and to every member we know. So that passionate belief is what has fueled the development of these modules. And again, these developers are pure gold, priceless in my eyes. I wish I were a wealthy person because I would pay them for the hours of time that they have spent. It would be a lot of money, by the way, because they have spent literally hundreds to thousands of hours developing this curriculum. Now, I know with AI, we can develop modules maybe more quickly, but these were hands-on developers, no AI involved in the development of round 1. And as John has mentioned, round 2. Some of the developers have stayed with us throughout. And so if I were to pick one golden moment that will always stay in my mind, it is when the Club Officer Training Working Group and developers met for the first official time in a hybrid meeting format with those who were present at the 100th anniversary Toastmasters International Convention in Anaheim, met in a room, and we did have a laptop so that we could broadcast to developers and Club Officer Training Working Group members who were not physically present at the 100th anniversary convention. But that's where I was able to meet, and I knew Florian Bay already, but Diane Richardson, I was able to meet Diane literally in person there, and Florian. Those were the two of the developers who have stayed with us throughout this project that I met, or that I was able to interface with personally at the Anaheim convention. I am totally inspired by our developers. I will tell you, they are highly dedicated, self-motivated, unpaid professionals, as I said, who've spent hours and hours of their personal time. I do not know how they have managed. I don't know, Paula, how you've managed to put this into your calendar to make this possible. So there are no words to express my gratitude. And I also want to mention that Paula was the one who said, why don't we use mind mapping to literally develop the flow and the topics for each of the modules? And of course, Florian and Diane, really it was Paula, Florian, and Diane that developed the mind maps for every single round 1 and round 2 module. And I think that was absolutely brilliant as a development tool to decide what topics would go into each module. And then thank you for already recognizing visually all of the developers. The 3 of you, Florian, Diane, and yourself, Paula, have stayed with us from the beginning of the development process. But as you showed, and as been mentioned, Elizabeth Jordan has been with us for round 1 and round 2, developing the secretaries module. You showed Adrian Lane, also from Region 10, who developed the Vice President Education module for round 1. We have Heather Blase, who has developed the Sergeant at Arms module for round 1. But then we brought on Rob Christensen and Angie Mullen for round 2 to work on the VP Education module. And am I missing anybody? We're just thrilled for everybody that has been a part of this project, and we thank you all.
Well, thank you so much. You know, to me, if I have to summarize just one word, it's awesome. It's been an awesome experience. A lot of work. There's been ups, there has been downs. It's been 2 years. So of course things happen, but it's been awesome, an awesome experience with the team, with the working group, and with the project itself. So I really want to thank all of you for this experience.
Yeah, and Pamela, you know that you have to use the word golden sometimes. So actually, I agree with awesome, but it's been golden throughout.
It's been golden.
Thank you.
Thank you. What a conversation. But we're not done yet. I'm done with the questions, but we did pre-poll some questions, and I'm sure that we're also getting live questions. And for this, I'm going to call back David to the stage because I'm sure he has some live questions for us. Hi, David. Welcome back.
Hi, Paula. Thank you. And what a rich conversation already. Lark and John and Paula, really wonderful to see and hear more about the development here. I've been watching the chat, of course, in the last minutes and been noticing not really questions. Some of them were already answered because some of the members that you talked about on the team are live in the chat, which is wonderful. But I guess just to revisit some of those, there was a question about when it's going to be launched, and we saw it's going to be launched very soon. There was a question or a comment about differences between an in-person delivery and an online delivery, if there were any, which was also kind of answered. And the other area there, a list of auxiliary topics, perhaps. Is there a list of any auxiliary training, such as Club Central? Will this be available at the same time as the new materials are launched? So maybe 3 areas, if you want to add anything for our viewers or those catching the live now, this might be the moment to share any thoughts there.
John, that's an interesting idea about making the auxiliary training topic list available. I'm not sure about that one, but I will comment on the online versus in-person versus hybrid. This training will work in all 3 formats. So we highly encourage you to decide the format best for your district. And then obviously this will meet your needs. We have developed this, the developers have developed this to make sure that it meets those needs.
That's wonderful. That's great. And I can also vouch for Paula's mind mapping. All of Region 10 Live News has been mind mapped from the very beginning. So really, Paula, hats off to you. You can see the real power of that technique. And I know you have some software that supports that, of course, but it's really I use it in my work as well. It's really a great tool to really help us to really visualize and picture what's happening. So I'm really happy to hear that it's worked successfully, of course, in this club officer training. So I know, Paula, you have another question or two. So I just encourage anyone watching online right now, please get your questions in. We want to light up the chat a little bit more. I'll pay attention to that, but maybe Paula, you have another question.
Yes, we have one from our very own Joseph Galea from Toastmasters Malta. He's asking, what is the plan for training area directors to implement this format in their club officer training?
Do you want me to take that, John? You take that one.
Yeah, sure. We can talk a little bit about that here. Lark and I meet regularly with Dan Rex. One thing we didn't make clear at the beginning is that this working group does not report to the board of directors. We report to Dan Rex directly. And so we meet regularly with Dan Rex, and this subject has been discussed with him. And here's why: because he's not stupid. He knows what's going on in the organization. He's watching this project like a hawk, really, to be quite frank about it. And so I think he likes what he's seen, to put it bluntly. So we had a discussion about this a while back, and the question that was asked was, can this approach be broadened into wider use throughout the entire organization? And he specifically had interest in the area director training and even trio training. And so we don't know the answer to that question because we don't totally know the success yet. Obviously, well, one thing we didn't mention, so let me just lay this out. Some of the ideas that we came up with and things that we did in this program have been utilized in certain districts throughout the organization in the past. So they've already been, if you will, pioneers that sort of led the way. They already did their own training. It's not like what we came up with in beta here, but they did their own training, and the result of that had a profound impact on districts. They started that process 5 years ago. We've seen some of those districts that went through that were what I call in the ditch before, come out of the ditch, and now they're doing very well. So we know good club officer training has an impact. The question is, can that be extended then to other parts and pieces of the organization? Because that is a piece of data that says, yes, training works. This method works. This approach works. Can we extend it to other pieces and parts of the organization? We don't have the answer yet. That will be an ongoing conversation with Dan. We do have regular meetings with him. We've got a list of future topics that we want to talk with him about. We obviously can't talk about those today because we haven't talked with him about them yet. But at some point when we do, then we would be able to share whatever comes out of that. But I think it's overall, I think it's a step in the right direction because it's opened the eyes to some people out there. But one thing we didn't make clear is that, you know, we had been working, the club officer training group was a breakout of a bigger group called the Advisory Committee of Past Presidents. international presidents. And a bunch of us past international presidents have been talking about club officer training for, I don't know, Lark, what, 5, 6, 7 years more?
Well, you and I met in 2022, I know. So, but we probably talked about it before then, John. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did. So we knew the need was there, but because of the workload of the board and other things, it just never made the priority cut. It's been in our plan. If you look at the strategic plan, it's been in the strategic plan to revise club officer training for a number of years now, but that just didn't happen because we didn't have the manpower. Of course, now what happened is that we got less funds available to go do that through the normal channels at world headquarters. And I would also argue that maybe that hasn't been as successful as it could have been, because a lot of the approaches that have been used when it comes from world headquarters has been pretty academic, and it took a long time then to work through that process to get it adapted to what we actually need in the organization. So one of the benefits of the beta test that I didn't mention before, well, we did, but we didn't make it this clear, is that we get real down to earth, both feet on the ground feedback from people who use this when you do a beta test of material that's created by other Toastmasters, not academic kinds of things. And so the benefit, of course, is that we think this will be adapted much more quickly. It took 5 years in some of these districts that used this approach early on to get some results, but we're already starting to see some of the results. For example, we had one beta test district that in every single TLI that they did, they used the new round 1 beta test materials. I happen to be a member of quite a number of clubs in that district, and so I'm seeing what happens when they come home from training. Every single one of those officers that went to that training came home. First thing they did was put together a calendar for the year, which is the last thing on our training list that Lark mentioned. The other thing that happened, of course, is they all went to work on the Club Success program immediately when they got home. So did it have an impact? Yes, I think it had an impact. Did they do the right things? Yes. Did we get their attention? Yes. Is it going to have a long-term impact? We don't know. It's going to take some years before we start to see the kind of things that we want, whether it's retention or whether it's whatever, more engagement, more involvement, more people involved, more available of officer candidates, area director candidates. Those kind of things have come out of some of the early things that were done years ago in some of these real pilot programs before even the beta test. So we know that's out there. We just don't have confirmation. We're excited about where this could take us. I guess the fundamental message that I have is that we think that it's really important to build a solid foundation of people who know what they're doing, club officers and members who know what they're doing, because there's only a limited number of people that will migrate into leadership positions. And if you don't have good people that know what they're doing, getting them into leadership positions and getting them advancing as quickly as they can in the leadership positions is more difficult. Whether it's done through area director training or whether it's done in trio training, it still is a challenge if they don't have a solid foundation and base. So that's what we're trying to do with club officer training here. I didn't mention that earlier because it gets a little bit beyond the scope of our project, but that is the fundamental reason why we did this, and it's in our scope documents. So did that help answer the question?
Yes. David, I saw some questions coming in the chat. Is that right?
Yes, and some of them have been answered. So again, I can just share what's there, and then maybe we can confirm a bit of a hot round, confirm or deny that these are accurate. So one question asks, what is the typical length of club officer training event for all 4 parts? Someone answered maybe from the team around 3 hours, but this can be extended with extra content if needed. There are some webinars coming in May for people as well. And the COT, yes, is 3 hours, but could incorporate into a longer TLI program if your district wants as well. So I see nods of confirmation, yes, I assume.
I will say each of the modules in round 1 is an hour though. And I would encourage all the districts to give people a break between each one. So
Absolutely.
I would say 3.5 hours of content from us. And if you want to have a keynote speaker, then that take it into 4. And obviously, we're saying we think that each module needs 60 minutes. If you want to extend them, then please do so. Or of course, if you want to add to the curriculum, you certainly can with other modules. But yes, I would say 3.5 hours so that there are some breaks in between each one.
Absolutely. As a corporate trainer, a university professor myself, I know the value of breaks. Start with the breaks, tell them when the coffee will be, of course. And then over time, then as more and more people, as you said before, John, are really trained in the leadership model. It may be that it's my second time visiting a COT, or in years to come, I've come back. Oh, that's right. The same module system works. Then I can also take on new learning, I guess. That's probably the benefit of this, is that second, third time viewing, there's always depth to Toastmasters that we uncover really when we get involved. So that's fantastic.
One other thing we did do that I didn't mention, or Lark didn't mention, is we added case studies in here and in most of this material, and you'll see it more in round 2 than in round 1. But the whole idea was that you won't have time to do all the case studies we put in there. The idea is that you can rotate through those case studies to create this new content and keep it fresh so that people don't see the same thing year in and year out. And we tried to do that throughout all of these modules in some way or the other. There's questions in there too. There's quizzes in there that we talked a little bit about in round 2 that will be refresher quizzes. And some of those questions you can't deal with all of the, you don't have time to deal with all the questions that are there. And the whole idea is let's keep this fresh and keep it different and from year to year. So we've tried to do what we could to address what we thought were some of the issues out there.
Yeah. Round 2. So I know the focus of this, it was to be round 1, the one that is launching now. But as John says, round 2 is highly customizable. So it is not only highly interactive, but it is highly customizable as well.
Yeah, we're spoiling things here, aren't we? Let's not tell anyone yet.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. It's coming to a close because it's time for us to end this show. But I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for having taken the time to be here with us tonight on Region 10 Live News. Thank you, Lark. Thank you, John. And also thank you our audience for being with us, for sending in all those comments and questions. And thank you, David, as well.
That's it. Well, thank you, Paula, Lark, and John, for your time tonight and your insights into the conversation, and to truly light up what's happened behind the scenes and behind the program. And I'm also intrigued to hear that there's a special advisory board for past international presidents. So maybe one day I could be president to join that club too. Let's see what happens. But thank you all for being on Region 10 Live News as we bring things now to a close. And ladies and gentlemen, what a conversation it has been tonight. Three takeaways here, of course, that this training is going to be launched very soon. So if you're an upcoming club officer, really make sure that you pay attention to get that training. At the same time, thinking about mind maps. We heard tonight the power of the mind map. So maybe Paula we could interview Paula on mind maps for another episode of Region 10 Live News. And of course, I just heard, as John said and Lark said, that this content is customizable. So we can really take it, run with it, use it in a way that's going to enhance your district, but also your own leadership, that we can always get something out of Toastmasters. And of course, with respect, integrity, service, and excellence, we can really rise to the occasion of leadership and make it something special. So to you, our audience, thank you for those who have been watching on tonight live. I see the chat lighting up. Thank you for your support, of course, of this. Our next, as it says there on screen, our next episode will be on May 10th. And it's a day, of course, as it is International Mother's Day. And we will mark that occasion with that episode. So until then, from all of us at Region 10 Live News, good night.